welcome back to Cooking with Bee. Today we're going to be doing another family favorite. Today is chicken bruschetta. So what that is a marinated chicken breast that is then topped with fresh mozzarella cheese and baked in the oven. On top of that, we're going to be doing two different bruschetta toppings. And what bruschetta is a tomato, onion, and garlic mixture. And we're gonna do one hot and one cold. That way you can mix it up throughout the year. So come cook with me. So for today's recipe, we're gonna start with some chicken breast. And to that, we're gonna marinate it. We find that a great fast marinade is a salad dressing. So this is just a regular old balsamic vinaigrette salad dressing. If you don't have that in your kitchen, but you have marinades, you can also use that as well. I just find that this is very simple and fast. We're gonna be doing the marinating for about 30 minutes. So for the bruschetta topping, you're gonna need either cherry tomatoes if you're gonna do the hot version, or Campari tomatoes for the cold version. We've got a few cloves here. In our family, we like a little extra, but 2 to 3 would be good. We've got a red onion that we're gonna chop up. Probably need about 1/4 to 1/2 per topping. We've got sliced fresh mozzarella. This week it was on sale at the store, so I was able to get it at a great price from the deli, or you can get the fresh mozzarella log already pre-sliced. Once everything is done and assembled, we're going to be topping that with some balsamic glaze. It just finishes everything off. As always, some salt, some basil, some oregano, and olive oil. So those are today's ingredients. So we're gonna start by taking the chicken and making thin cutlets again with them. So step 1 is to start by marinating your chicken. So we're gonna take the chicken breasts and clean them up and cutlet them. So we are gonna take your chicken breasts out, and these pieces here are what you're gonna remove. So you're just gonna keep rotating the chicken. And take the big pieces of chicken fat off. And again, on this side, there's usually a little bit of cartilage. So now that that's all done, I flip over the chicken, I apply a little bit of pressure with my hand, and just in a sawing motion, cut the chicken in 2, just like that. So we're gonna put that in a bowl for now, and then we're gonna top it with our marinade. I'm gonna continue with the other 3 pieces of chicken. So we ended up going with 5 breasts of chicken. That way we can have leftovers. So now that we're done cleaning and cutting up our chicken, I'm gonna go ahead, wash my hands, and come right back. All right, so now that the chicken's already been cleaned and cutleted, we're gonna start by marinating it in a dressing. So like I mentioned, it's just a regular old balsamic vinaigrette. And to that, it's going to be probably a little over 1/2 cup that you'll need. So just pour it over, making sure that you get all the breasts nicely covered, but you don't want it drowning in marinade. So we're gonna keep this and put it aside. We wanna keep it at room temperature. That way it's gonna be easy to sear and seal in those juices. So while that is marinating, I'm gonna go ahead and start on my topping, the hot topping. So I actually use a pie plate. To me, pie plates are not just for pies. So we are going to be using the cherry tomatoes for the hot version. They roast up nicely and pop with all those yummy juices. So you can see that that is 1 container of cherry tomatoes. Pour 2 to 3 tablespoons on top of a nice olive oil and get them coated up. To that, we're going to be dicing up a little bit of red onion and also just slicing up the garlic. No need to make anything fancy because we're gonna go ahead and mash it all together at the end. So we have our basil here. I would have to say probably a good teaspoon or so, not a lot. And then oregano as well, same, just enough to coat. And lastly, a couple pinches of salt. We're gonna go ahead and get the cutting board out. And get that onion sliced up. And the garlic as mentioned. So you can see I'm just taking those nice big giant cloves of garlic and just roughly chopping them because they're all going to be roasting together and breaking down. So that's one. And here is two. Smell that garlic. Again, another thing we like about this recipe is the versatility of it. If you don't like onion and garlic, don't use it. You want to do chicken thighs instead of chicken breast? Do that instead. So this was a pretty good sized red onion, so I'm going to just use about a third. And again, just a rough chop. So I'm going to take and pop this into a 375-degree oven while the chicken is marinating. So that should take about 45 minutes to an hour to have all the tomatoes break down and pop, because that's what you want. So an alternative to the hot bruschetta topping is a nice cold bruschetta topping. This time of year we're going into summer, so it is a nice alternative to that hot topping. So it's going to be the same ingredients, and instead of roasting the tomatoes, we're just going to nicely dice everything so it's nice and uniform and bite size. So I've taken another third of that same onion, and I'm going to just dice it up so it's nice and smaller and more refined. So here we go. And we're going to take that and put it into a nice mixing bowl. And we're going to move on to our tomatoes. So as mentioned, we like the Campari tomatoes. They're nice and sweet and beautiful. So again, you're looking for a nice dice, uniform, and bite size. Another kitchen hack is to always have a nice sharp knife on hand. That way you are not hurting yourself. And it does what it needs to do. So I'm just going to continue and dice up. There was a pound of Campari tomatoes here. So the ratio we use is about 2/3 to 1/3. So I said I had a pound here of the Campari tomatoes and about 1/3 of a large red onion. So we're gonna take and add that to the tomatoes, or to the onion, sorry. You can also use this as an appetizer. You can buy some nice garlic toast, put some cheese on it, bake it, and put this on the side. And as your guests want, they can put their own topping on top. That way it doesn't make the garlic bread yucky. So there we go. We've got our tomatoes added. To that, we're going to crush a couple garlic cloves into it. So just go ahead and remove that garlic paper off. And get that crushed on in there. You want the garlic taste, but you don't really want an overwhelming chunk of garlic inside your bruschetta. There is one. Is two. No wasting. And to that, tomatoes love salt. So you want to make sure you go ahead and give it probably a good heaping teaspoon to teaspoon and a half of salt to enhance that flavor of the tomatoes. Here we just have a dried basil, same amount, a nice heaping teaspoon to teaspoon and a half. Oregano, I think, rounds out that flavor, but I don't use it as much, so probably just a teaspoon. And then we're going to be doing olive oil. 1, 2, 3 good tablespoons. Let's give this a stir and see how it looks. So you can see the ratio. Not too onion heavy and not too tomato heavy. And you just want everything to be coated in the olive oil, and that's about it. So we're gonna go ahead and set this aside, and then we'll start working with the chicken. So now that we have the tomato topping, the hot tomato topping in the oven, and it's been about 30 minutes, we're gonna go ahead and start working with the chicken breast. What I like to do is I like to sear it. That way it seals in those juices and cuts the bake time in half, because you're not waiting for it to cook fully in the oven. So we're gonna take care of that right now. me a good, nice surface area, and I'm not trying to cram all the chicken pieces in, but a 13 by 9 will work just as well. So let's go ahead and start searing. So 3 minutes have elapsed. We're gonna go ahead and use a clean set of tongs, remove the chicken from the pan, and put it into our casserole dish, and continue cooking up the second set. See you back here in a minute or so. So now that our chicken is done searing, we're gonna go ahead and put it in the oven for a few minutes to finish cooking. I feel like I'm playing Tetris again. So let's go ahead and just get this off to the side. What we're gonna do now is take a look at our tomatoes. Everything smells incredible. So as you can see, the tomatoes shrunk in size and everything is nice and roasted and softer. The smell is absolutely incredible. It smells like a pizza pie if you ask me. So now we're gonna go ahead and take our potato masher and just gently press on those tomatoes. And you can see why I said gently, because they will squirt when they pop. So, and you can see why everything could just be rough cut. Nothing needed to be nice and precise, because we're just gonna go ahead and kind of mash this all together and give it a good stir. So now we're just gonna wait for the chicken to be done and put everything together. So now we've had the chicken finish cooking off in the oven, and we're gonna slice it with fresh mozzarella. All right, let's see who doesn't have some cheese. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Everybody is nicely covered, so we're gonna go ahead and just pop this back in the oven. Should just take a minute or two to finish cooking off that cheese, and then we'll be finished and we can wrap up and get that topped with that nice bruschetta topping. Our cheese is now ooey and gooey and ready to come out. As you can see, there's no lack of juice in this stuff. So now let's go ahead and plate it up. So now we're done and we're gonna start assembling. So we're gonna grab one of the breasts of chicken. All that gooey cheese. And I'm gonna put a little bit of, my personal favorite is the cold. So you put a little bit of that on top. My husband's personal favorite, of course, is the warm. Put that on top. And then to finish it all off, like I mentioned, just a simple balsamic glaze adds a nice sweetness. And there we go. What we do is we'll have this either with a pasta, a ravioli, a salad. If you're looking to keep it low carb, you can always do it with some roasted green beans as well, or just a simple garden salad. So you can see that chicken is nice and juicy and filled with flavor, and then a little bit of the tomato topping and the melted cheese. This is another great chicken dish, and it's got so much flavor in it with just few simple ingredients. So now we're gonna go ahead and try the cold version. Don't forget, when you roast tomatoes, they take on a whole different flavor than raw tomatoes. All right, let's go ahead and try this one. Now I don't know which one's my favorite. They're both so good. So I hope you guys take the time and try these recipes for yourself and let me know.